ritual needed to be conducted. A sacrifice has to be made. And they needed a dwarf, an albino, and one virgin. Aku was the only dwarf in town, and Snowhite was the only available albino. The other albino was the only son of the chief, and there was no way he would let his son be sacrificed when Snow White was there. Aku and Snowhite were sad and devastated. Their mother cried all day and night. Somewhere in the heart of Africa, there were three strange triplets, called Aku, Brownie, and Snow White. They were very special, and had never been seen anywhere in the world. Aku is a dwarf with big ears and green eyes. She looked like she wasn't from this planet. Brownie is tall and dark-skinned. Ever since she was born, a single strand of hair had never grown on her head. No matter what she ate, she could never get fat. Lastly, there is Snow White. She was the last to be pushed out by her mother, from the triplets, yet she was the biggest. She was a plus-sized albino. The three sisters were very insecure about their looks. Everyone thought they were strange and were cursed. Their mother, Grace, had given them the special names at their birth. All the doctors in the hospital were shocked when they saw the triplets. Some nurses even fainted immediately they saw Aku. Their father ran away and abandoned them to marry another wife, some weeks after they were born. He said Grace's womb was cursed, and he didn't want to have anything to do with them. Grace made sure she sent her daughters to school from her little fruit business. They didn't have much, but they were content. Aku was always sad, because everyone called her the ugliest and most strange of the triplets. She was called a dwarf and a short gnome because of how she looked. She had no friends, because nobody wanted to talk to her. Brownie on the other hand was beautiful, and even though some people called her bald and skinny, she knew she would make a good model someday and would always practice her moves around the compound, bragging to whoever cared to listen that she would be a model someday. Snow White was also insecure about her looks and weight. She always turned red under the sun and everyone called her Red Tomatoes and other names. Brownie's fortune changed when she got signed to a modeling agency. She was spotted by a volunteer worker in town who introduced her to a model scout. Brownie left town and went to the city to pursue her dreams. Aku planned on being a doctor so she could heal the sick, while Snowhite wanted to be a pilot. Soon, the land became dry and rain refused to fall. Everywhere was hot and people were dying of hunger. The gods of the land were called on, and they said a ritual needed to be conducted. A sacrifice has to be made. And they needed a dwarf, an albino, and one virgin. Aku was the only dwarf in town, and Snowhite was the only available albino. The other albino was the only son of the chief, and there was no way he would let his son be sacrificed when Snow White was there. Aku and Snowhite were sad and devastated. Their mother cried all day and night, and people came to console her to take heart. Aku and Snowhite decided to come up with a plan. "There's no way I'll let my blood be used for a land that doesn't care about me," Snowhite said. "Me too. The town hates me and calls me an elf and a gnome. I also have dreams of becoming a doctor. I will not waste my life for this," Aku said. "We need to run away from this town as soon as possible. Maybe we can go to Brownie's house in the city. She has sent us her address before," Snowhite said. "Good idea," Aku said. They informed their mother that they needed to escape the town at night and she agreed. They packed some of their belongings and sneaked out at night and took a bus to the city. They gave the driver the address and by the time they got there, it was around 8 in the morning. They were all surprised to see the beautiful mansion in front of them. "Is this really Brownie's house, or is this the wrong address?" Aku asked. "This must be the address. But how can Brownie be living in such a big house, and she didn't say anything?" Snowhite asked. They knocked on the gate, and the gateman opened. He looked at them in disgust, wondering who they were. Yes? How may I help you? He asked. We are here to see our sister, Brownie, Aku said. The gateman looked at them and laughed. How can you, this short dwarf, be the sister of my boss? We're triplet sisters, so let us in, Snowhite said. My friend. Get out of here, the gateman said and locked the gate. They tried to call Brownie, but she wasn't picking up. Tired and hungry, they sat in front of the gate with their bags, hoping for when Brownie would come back from wherever she went. They tried to buy food, but it was too expensive in that area. They had to buy one plate and manage it together. In the afternoon, they saw a car drive in and they all stood up. They were sure it must be Brownie. The car stopped and the glass was wound down. Brownie was seated inside, beside a man, looking as beautiful as ever. Brownie! Brownie! Snowhite waved at her in excitement, but to her shock, Brownie ignored her. Who is that? The man asked Brownie. I don't know them, they're probably my fans, Brownie said. The man wound the glass up, and they drove into the compound. Grace and her daughters stood there in shock. They couldn't believe Brownie would deny them like that. Is that really Brownie or is this a dream? Snowhite asked in surprise. The gates suddenly opened, and the gateman addressed them. Madam said I should tell you all to wait in the boys' quarters outside and not come out till further instruction. She has ordered food, so when it comes, I'll bring it to you, he explained. They all looked at each other in confusion, wondering what was going on. They however packed their bags and took it to the boys' quarters, which was a small room outside the house, usually meant for the domestic workers of the house. They sat inside, wondering what was going on. Brownie better have a good explanation for all of this, Ku frowned. I believe your sister has a reason for this, let us be patient, Grace advised. Shortly after, the gateman came in and gave them their food and they ate to their satisfaction. Brownie walked into the room and greeted them. So you now recognize us? Snowhite asked angrily. I'm sorry. I was tired and I didn't want that man with me to know anything about you. I lied that my family is dead, so the man can pity me, Brownie explained, scratching her head. Why do you need his pity? Grace asked. He's the one that pays my bills and gives me good deals, Brownie explained. All of this is not fair. You have a nice house and you never invited us over, Aku said. I'm sorry, I promised to send a lot of money back home. So you all can be comfortable when you go back. We are not going anywhere, Grace said. Brownie looked at them in shock. Why not? They want to use us for sacrifice to appease the gods, Snowhite explained. What? You know what, I'll move you to the house tomorrow. Please, sleep here for tonight, Brownie pleaded. Why? Aku frowned. Please don't ask questions. It's only for today, so rest well and we'll talk tomorrow, Brownie said and left the room. Soon, night came, and Aku peeped through the window and saw all manners of beautiful ladies, trooping into the house. There was also music blasting from inside. She quickly alerted Snowhite and they both began to peep. It looks like they are having a party, Snowhite said. Yes. And I want to go, Aku said. But Brownie instructed us not to leave this room, Snowhite said. I just want to have fun. I'm not doing anything bad. After all, Brownie is our sister, Aku said. Okay, let's go together. They both glanced at their mother and saw she was sleeping peacefully and they tiptoed out of the room. They went into the house and saw that it was beautifully decorated with flowers and balloons and beautiful ladies were dancing and drinking wine. Wow! This is so beautiful, Aku said, looking around in wonder. Suddenly, one of the ladies let out a loud scream, pointing at Aku and the other ladies stopped dancing. What is this hideous being? The lady asked. Aku became sad and ashamed and looked at Brownie, hoping her sister will defend her. Brownie? What are these creatures? Another lady asked. We are her sisters, Snowhite said. They all turned to Brownie, who began to sweat anxiously. Brownie, say something, another lady said. I don't know them, Brownie said. Aku and Snow White looked at her in shock. They couldn't believe their sister would deny them in front of everyone.